Shree Kumar, you make it to the civil services, and you soon find out that in your organization, right from the superiors to the lowest position, everyone is corrupt and corrupt to the core. And if you do not give in to that game of corruption, it would be impossible to work in that ecosystem. Will you go out in the media and talk about it?
Appropriately, Kerala is your first choice. Why is the zone 2, that is Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Uttar Pradesh, your last choice in your order of preference?
As your hobby is cooking,
Yes.
so can you please reflect on what is the difference between paneer butter masala, paneer tufani, paneer afghani, and paneer angar? Shree Kumar.
Yes.
Shree Kumar, are you fully vaccinated?
Yes.
So the distance is safe. You can take off the mask for clarity of expression. Shree Kumar, how would you like to introduce yourself? What kind of a person are you?
So my name is Shree Kumar. I hail from the district of Kozhikode in Kerala. I did my graduation in Bachelor of Commerce from Christ University in Bengaluru, post which I worked for 1.5 years with Ernst & Young in the role of an advanced tax analyst, serving my clients in UK. Post which I was also associating with my university in the role of an adjunct faculty, where I was working on a project for a public education outreach project. Since then, I've been preparing for UPSC civil service examination. I would define myself as a person who is very inquisitive, a person who is deeply interested in international affairs, and an avid watcher of Formula One races, and a person who loves cooking.
So, when you worked as an advanced analyst, what kind of challenges you faced?
So primarily the challenges in my job was to connect with different nationalities across the world. They come from diverse backgrounds, especially my clients were spread across Europe as well as in North America. So many of them were in different time zones. Many of them speak in different slangs. Many of them come from different belief systems. So connecting to them was one challenge. Secondly, the major one was the timings, which I had to push through. And as my clients were spread, I had to work almost more than 11 to 12 hours, which was quite straining.
Okay. Shree Kumar, is that the reason why you have opted for political science and international relations?
No, sir, I would not say that. I opted political science and international relations as my optionals because of my aptitude towards the subject. I believe that the syllabus had interested me. And from a very young age itself, while I was living in Qatar, I was deeply interested in knowing about the world affairs and reading about it from the newspapers. So this was a reason which drew me into taking optionals and also the guidance that is available for this subject.
Shree Kumar, can you highlight the present areas where India is cooperating with West Asia?
Sure, sir. So the most important area where India is cooperating with West Asia is in terms of energy security. West Asia is a primary source for us for all sorts of liquefied natural gas as well as crude oil exports from countries such as Saudi, Qatar, etc. The other area where we are cooperating is in terms of our diaspora that is present in West Asia. We have almost more than 8 million diaspora that is present in various West Asian countries. So these are the two major areas of cooperation. Other than that, we have also been recently cooperating with multiple Middle Eastern nations in terms of strategic investment, which has been recently seen from UAE, Saudi Arabia, etc.
How are we hedging our foreign policy in that part of the world?
Sure. So mainly the challenges emanate from the various fact about India's engagement with multiple partners. For example, India's engagement with Iran is posing an issue with larger West Asian community. So India has been hedging that particular relationship in terms of calculating our national interest and taking a policy of multi-alignment or issue-based alignment where we are prioritizing what are the issues to cooperate and what are the issues where we can solve the conflicts or difference of opinion through negotiations and deliberations.
Which relationship has more prospect according to you? India-Iran or India-Israel?
So I think it would not be a in my opinion, we cannot probably rank in relationship because each of them are different in their own perspective. Because if India-Iran relationship objectives are very different in terms of access to Central Asian regions or in terms of larger energy security. Israel comes into the picture where we require Israel's cooperation in terms of defense purchases, in terms of technology, agricultural practices. So both the relationships are different in its own terms. So I believe ranking one above the other would not be a good option for India perspectively. So I think India would need to consider both the countries equally.
Shree Kumar, can you recall an incident from your life where your ethics were challenged?
So if I have to recollect one incident where ethics was challenged, was when I was working and I was asked by my superiors to probably remove a date which I had done the work because they wanted to meet the deadline for particular work. And I was asked to put a post-dated particular date on the work that I had completed, which I believe was one of the reasons, which was one of the instances where my ethics was probably challenged. So the process in which I handled it was to talk with my senior manager, where I had told him that, sir, if I had to mention a predator check, that would mean that we had essentially met the deadline. But if we put the correct date, that would mean that we had breached the deadline. But I believe that it is good for us to come out in the open and tell that we had taken this time, extra time, for so and so reasons. So I believe it is better to be open about it, and I convinced him to do the exact.
Okay. Suppose, Shree Kumar, you make it to the civil services and you soon find out that in your organization, right from the superiors to the lowest position, everyone is corrupt and corrupt to the core. And if you do not give in to that game of corruption, it would be impossible to work in that ecosystem. Will you go out in the media and talk about it?
No, sir, I would not go out in the media because being a civil servant, I believe the primary responsibility is to reform the system by staying within the system. Us going out in the open and me opening out every detail in the open destroys the integrity of the government services, destroys the integrity of the bureaucracy. So I would use all the mechanisms available within the system to root out the corruption and pose my oppositions or arguments against this particular challenges that I had to face.
You have to do that. What procedures will you adapt?
So I believe government has different procedures like setting up of Vigilance Commission, Central Bureau of Investigation, as well as the recent Lokpal is also there, where a government or a public servant can definitely file a complaint against the erring officer who is rooted in corruption and can launch an investigation. So these are some of the legal mechanisms we have.
Filing all such applications and exhausting all such institutional methodologies, yet the corruption continues. What will you do then?
So I believe the crusade against corruption is a long-term process. So I believe one of the instances of failure should not give you a feeling of dejection and pull you backwards. I believe that I have to go forward continuously and fight against corruption in all possible methods that I could. So I believe it is a long-term process.
Play the role of a whistleblower?
So depending on the situation where where there is a huge threat against my particular life or personal life, I believe that there are legal systems within India which allows me to probably give an anonymous complaint against the servant which have been erring in a very grievous manner. So I believe staying within the system, we could possibly take all the measures.
But I hope, Shree Kumar, you are aware about the Whistleblowers Protection Act, right? So it's a legal tool now and you can be a whistleblower. Suppose you choose to be one. What platform will you use?
No, sir. Reaching out to the media is never an option. So I believe we can write a letter to the Central Vigilance Commission stating the problem that we had been facing, giving all the required documents, and also by looping in the senior authorities which are responsible for hearing out these complaints and move through the proper channels that is existing within the government.
Apart from the Central Vigilance Commission, copies of that letter should be sent to whom?
I'm sorry, sir, I'm not able to recollect at this point of time, sir.
Thank you, Shree Kumar. Sir.
Shree Kumar,
Yes.
you said you are a very inquisitive person in business. One instance, or say rather, I would say one achievement that you feel that this nature of yours has helped you to achieve.
Sure, sir. So it was during my time in Bangalore, where I had met a woman who was begging on the streets in a presumably well-dressed fashion. So everyone was passing by, while it created a curiosity inside me about why was a person who was also speaking in English and very well-dressed begging on the streets. On my conversation with her and out of my curiosity, she opened up to me about the fact that her eldest son, who was an astrophysicist, had driven away her from her own house by her own children. And this helped me to utilize my connections in the social media to bring out this particular incident and give her necessary rehabilitation and bring necessary attention to this grievous issue of children driving away their parents from home.
And what was the end of that end result of this particular act of yours?
So this incident, when it came out in the social media and our college circles, it became a point of discussion. And I believe that where she had been rehabilitated in a very well functioning old age home, her own children, who was not the son who drove her away, her own daughter came the way, after 2-3 months and took her back into the house, which was I believe a very good measure for in her life.
Good. Shree Kumar, what is the meaning of the name Shree Kumar? And why do you use the word name Shree Kumar, Ravindra Kumar?
Yes, sir. So firstly, Shree means prosperity, and Kumar means the youthfulness and the radiance that you portray. So Shree Kumar refers to a youth who is always coming or who holds a great deal of prosperity. And Ravindra Kumar is my father's name, which explains the second part.
Okay. Your date of birth is 2nd of July. Now, do you have any idea as to what is this day celebrated worldwide as?
Sorry, sir, I'm not able to recollect at this point.
Let me give you a hint. It's got something to do with extraterrestrial objects.
Okay. Sorry, sir, I'm still not able to connect that.
It's called as the World UFO Day. Okay. I was a little surprised to see this is your second attempt at the civil services. You have made a mention that 2019 was your first attempt and 2020. This is your second attempt? This is your third attempt. Okay. You said 2.
Sir, if I make a correction, I could not retrieve my DAF 1 for this particular year. So the DAF 1 which I had presented in Eden is often for my second attempt, which was the data is similar. So as I could not retrieve it, that's the reason. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Okay. What interested me in your DAF was the fact that you are very fond of Formula One racing. Tell me, what does the term formula in Formula One refer to? What is called Formula One?
So I must admit that I do not know the exact reason as to why it is called formula. However, if I may take an educated guess, it has got to do with the engine and the progression that a driver comes from karting to the Formula One. So it just refers to the topmost tier of the racing in terms of speed and in terms of engine specifications is what I could take an educated guess. Though I must admit that I do not know what exactly formula means.
So, what you are saying, the progressive,
Yes.
as you're talking about, does it mean you have something called as Formula 2 and Formula 3 also?
Yes, absolutely.
What are they?
So Formula 3 is the junior most stage where a driver could join the formula stages, though during the time of childhood he or she would have gone through a karting stages, which is the preliminary version of racing, from which they progress towards various races to Formula 3. From there on, after gaining certain license points, they move on to Formula 2, and then they move on to the highest level, which is a Formula 1.
Is there any other form of Formula racing also apart from F1, F2, F3?
So there is also Formula E, which is the electric vehicle, the battery-powered version of Formula One racing.
If you can just take me through what are the speed limits that you probably feel between FE and F1.
So I'm not able to recollect the speed of Formula E at this point. However, Formula One, I would say that it is north of 320 kilometers per hour.
20, are you sure?
I think so. It's north of 320 kilometers per hour.
Can you name 5 top-notch F1 teams?
So currently, the leaders are the Ferrari F1 team, and the second followed by Red Bull Racing, and the third is the AMG Petronas Mercedes-Benz, and the fourth one would be McLaren Racing, and the fifth one would be Aston Martin.
There's a term which is very often used, pit. What is the meaning of the word pit in Formula One racing?
So pit is a place where the technicians and the mechanics stay for a driver in between the races if he faces any technical difficulties or if there is a requirement to change the tire. The driver takes his car or takes his vehicle into the pit lane, which is the subsidiary lane where there is a space for him to stop, park the car, make the necessary mechanics arrangements, and then continue the race. So that it is created so that you do not disrupt the main race, but you can also take necessary maintenance towards the car.
And why are the car tires changed so very often during the racing?
Yes, sir. So primarily the speed at which that they travel creates a wear and tear effect on the tires very fast. And secondly, the tires which are used for Formula One are very softer compounds compared to the normal ones that you see on the road. So there is a greater wear and tear effect. So after 30 or 40 laps, there is a requirement to change the tires.
What is there's a term called as blistering of tires.
Yes.
What does that mean?
So blistering of tires is when it moves on a very hard surface, and when it moves at very higher speed, the compounds from the tire starts withering away and creates undulation surface on the tire, which I believe is the meaning of blistering.
You said you're also fond of cooking.
Yes.
What food what is your favorite food?
So from the district where I come from, Kozhikode, there is a very famous dish called Calicut Dum Biryani, which is one of my favorite dishes to cook. Secondly, in terms of my taste, I also love cooking paneer butter masala and the other South Indian dishes, normal South Indian dishes.
You ever tried your hand at North Indian food?
Yes, sir. As I mentioned just before, paneer butter masala is one of the dishes which I love cooking. And apart from that, North Indian dishes, probably I'm not able to recollect what I had cooked specifically, but this is one particular dish which I could recollect.
Which is the closest food to dosa in the North Indian food?
Dosa. Dosas may resemble in cookings. I would probably say it would probably rice flatbread is what I could probably guess at this point. I have not particularly seen anything very similar to dosa in the North Indian cuisine.
Okay, one last question.
Yes.
Appropriately, Kerala is your first choice. Why is the Zone 2, that is Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Uttar Pradesh, your last choice in your order of preference?
So with all due respect to all these zones that has been provided us to by UPSC, the reason why I kept Bihar, Jharkhand and the Zone 2 particularly at my last order is I believe personally my lack of inexperience of dealing with the cultures in that particular states, or probably I believe that my aptitude or my skills could be potentially used in the other or potentially suitable for the other zones. That is the probable reason why I have personally chosen it.
Have anything to do with it?
Yes, that is also one of the reasons, especially in states like Bihar, Jharkhand, or Chhattisgarh, for that matter of fact. I believe that there is a difficulty of language, especially that I'm from down south. My Hindi is also not that great, or probably my experience in other Indian languages is also very limited. So yes, definitely language is one of the factors.
So I said last question, but I couldn't resist seeing your height and your build. Yes. Why is IPS such so low in your order of preference? You have an ideal IPS officer.
Yes, sir. True. Sir, I place, again, with all due respect to all the services, the reason why I have placed IPS in my fifth order of preference is, firstly, my extreme avid interest in international relations makes me believe that I could utilize my aptitude for an Indian foreign service in the first place. Secondly, Though I am also built and also have the probable height, I'm also a bit too bulky, which does not probably gives me the physical capabilities that is required for an IPS officer. So considering every factor, I believe that my aptitude and my skill sets are more utilized, can be more utilized for a service like Indian Foreign Service.
The IPS was your fifth job or fifth option. Are you sure it's your fifth option?
It's sixth. I believe it is sixth.
Thank you very much, Shree Kumar.
Shree Kumar. Let me continue from where sir left. You said that you are inquisitive. That is your quality, right? But it doesn't resemble with your choice of Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Uttar Pradesh as fifth preference. If you are inquisitive, don't you think that you should explore such zones as well, such states as well?
Definitely, sir. I agree with you. I should explore those areas. However, I believe that during the early ages of your career or a setting of your career, you need to gain certain ground level experience of working in other states and probably become a lot more mature in dealing with such geographical provinces where I may not have an experience. And once I have attained certain maturity in my career, I would love to explore these areas as well, sir.
But that is what training is for.
Yes, sir.
You would be provided training, even if you are less mature initially. With the training, you can get matured enough.
Sure, sir. The reason only I have kept it, as I said in the last order of my preference, is one of the challenges or probably one of the greater degrees of difficulties that I may face in adjusting to that particular scenario. So in the initial stages, considering my personal choices of adjusting to these circumstances, is the only reason why I have kept it towards the last.
All like our comfort zones. You are from Kazikot.
Yes.
How it is pronounced exactly?
So it is pronounced Korikot, where probably you have to take a ra sound by twisting your tongue and touching it up on the upper side of the chin.
Korikot.
Yes, sir.
Similar. It was previously known as Calicut.
Absolutely.
Why?
So the term Calicut was given by the foreigners who had come to Calicut or Korikot for that matter of fact, because of the fine woven cotton cloth that was very famous for trading called as calico. So that's the reason why the Chinese, the Portuguese and the English had given the term Calicut. However, the regional term or the indigenous term for the place called Korikot is Korikot itself, which comes from the word Koil Kota because of the fortification that was present in and around that area.
Which city in India is known as City of Sculpture?
So, sorry, sir, I'm not able to read it.
It is Kozhikode. It was given a tag in 2012. So, the City of Sculpture.
Okay.
Why?
So,
highlight some sculptures.
Okay. So I've personally witnessed different sculptures of literary figures which are erected in different places of Calicut, especially like travelogues like S.K. Pottekkatt, P.C. Urub, as well as some other literary figures who are very famous, and the musicians like M.S. Babaraj. So Kozhikode was a center for all the amalgamation of famous literary, scientific, and artistic personalities, which is one of the reasons where all of their sculptures are present in different parts of Kozhikode.
In India, obedience is valued more than inquisitiveness. Is it hampering our research and innovation?
So to an extent, I would believe that an unnecessary, unnecessary emphasis towards obedience is hampering research and development. However, I believe that there should be a sense of balance between both obedience as well as inquisitiveness, because lack of obedience or lack of your willingness to conform to the rules and regulations can make us absolutely away from the system. So I believe there should be a balance between obedience by staying within the system and expressing your innovation in the best possible manner.
Do you believe that it is high time we make Hindi as our national language because it is required for the country?
So Hindi as a national language would not be required at this point, because I believe that even in the vision of the constitution makers, Hindi is the language that is primarily as a lingua franca of majority of the population. However, in taking into consideration the various pluralities and the various diversities in India, we need to find a unity amongst the diversity by assimilating all the different cultures and by giving all the due respect to all the cultures. So I believe while Hindi can remain as an official language, we can also give due consideration to the others.
Do you have in your mind any example of a particular country which has so much diversity of languages, what India has, and still it has remained to maintain its unity?
So if I may take a few seconds to recollect. Sorry, sir, I'm not able to recollect at this point, sir.
PSIR is your optional, right? Recently, Maritime Rescue Coordination Center was established. Do you know where? It is outside India. It is with the joint effort of India and Sri Lanka in Colombo. How foreign policy impacts the common man? Give me 3 examples.
So foreign policy has its direct impact on the common citizens of India, both living within India and outside India. So if you take a foreign policy decision, especially that we have seen in the times of the recent Ukrainian crisis, India's foreign policy of opening up the channels of negotiations with both Ukraine and Russians helped us to repatriate our citizens in a very swift manner, considerably very swift manner from Ukraine to India. So this is one of the reasons where we can see foreign policy affecting Indian citizens. Secondly, while our policy of multi-alignment, issue-based alignment with multiple nations have helped us to remain and give us a lot of options in times of crisis, especially in the recent Ukrainian crisis. India's decision to go ahead and purchase Russian oil would help the Indian citizens to overcome the inflationary pressures that would rise in the economy and have a favorable set of lifestyle. So these 2 reasons actually shows us that foreign policy have a direct impact on the citizens' life, both in India and outside India.
I asked you 3. Not an issue. How management is different from administration?
So management would primarily focus upon coordinating and as well as taking care of the feelings and the emotions of your employees and ensuring that the workflow happens in a very smooth manner, which is the meaning of the word management. However, administration, I also believe there is also a formal aspect to it where you are not only thinking about the procedure in which it is done, it should also about the larger objectives that it should satisfy. So administration is also more of a result oriented process more than management, which I believe is a more procedure oriented, whereas administration is also about the result or goal oriented process.
So in management, you do not care about results?
Absolutely, so you care. However, when compared to administration, I believe that we are also focusing about how the results are going to affect the larger population of which who are the recipients or the beneficiaries of this results. So I believe more than management, administration is focusing on the results a bit more, is what I believe.
Can we use principles of Taylor in administration?
Sorry, sir, I'm not able to recollect the principles of Taylor at this point, sir.
Okay. One last question from my side is, what is treaty shopping?
So treaty shopping is where countries utilize the different loopholes in multiple tax treaties and the multiple bilateral treaties which have been signed for overcoming the tax burdens. So companies per se, that is in multinational nature, utilize the various provisions in treaties to place their profits in different countries and utilize undue advantages of it.
One more question.
Yes.
Sure. As your hobby is cooking,
Yes.
So can you please reflect on what is the difference between paneer butter masala, paneer tufani, paneer Afghani, and paneer angar?
So while I must honestly admit that I have not tasted paneer tufani or paneer. However, I can probably attempt a differentiation between paneer Afghani and paneer butter masala. Paneer Afghani is more of moderate in spices, where the paneer itself is cooked in Afghani spices like by the utilization of lime and curd and other reasons. Whereas paneer butter masala, you use the raw paneer as such without probably cooking it too much. So I believe that is one of the differences between paneer butter masala and paneer Afghani.
So
as your hobby is cooking, yes, you are aware about South Indian cuisine, the benefits of the food, irrelevant food to the health.
So, compared to many other states in India, Kerala's food is a bit more moderate on the spices in various regions of Kerala. Though it is not the same all around Kerala, I believe largely it is a bit more moderate on the spices, which I believe is a one good beneficially for health. Secondly, the traditional Kerala food or the traditional Kerala lunch, which is termed as sadhya, which has a huge focus on various type of vegetables and the various type of nutritional elements that is used, especially the rice that we use in Kerala, which is a chemba rice, which is very rich in bran as well as the fiber elements, which is good for digestion, as well as the dishes like avial, which involves almost around 7 to 8 varieties of vegetables, is rich in minerals and vitamins. So I believe these are some of the reasons why, or some of the elements of Kerala cuisine which is beneficial for health.
Fish.
Sure, sir.
The reason why I did not have mentioned fish is because the entire population of Kerala, especially in the inner regions of Kerala, do not have a preference towards fish. However, in the coastal regions, yes, fish is a preferred dish and it has a huge potential of omega-3 fatty acids, which is good for one's health.
See, in the zone-wise preference, you prefer to the zone to Bihar, and you indicated that because of lack of culture and language issue, you opted as a however, Indian Foreign Service is the first choice. If you are posted in Iran, the language, what is the official language in Iran?
Yes,
Speak Farsi.
Absolutely not, sir.
Okay, so obviously there is a language problem, and there is a culture problem. How will you manage?
Yes.
If you could not manage within your country, how could you manage abroad?
Sir, this is where I believe
my experience of living in Qatar would help me, because I did my 13 years of schooling and my fair share of my life in a Middle Eastern state where I have come across different cultures, and also the experience of sharing a particular space with different nationalities have given me an insight into how to create a conversation or how to bridge the gap of diplomacy within different nationalities. So I believe that experience will come in handy, and especially the language training after being posted in such countries would also help me to overcome the language barriers. So.
Difference among the other countries, but it is difficult for you to manage within your country, right?
No, sir. This is probably not the message that I would wanted to come forward. It's only the very fact that the 13 years of schooling abroad, which I had spent, gives me which gives me an idea about talking with different nationalities apart from India. However, the reason which I have kept Zone 5 as my last preference is only because of the very reason that my inexperience of living in India would probably give me certain challenges which are more difficult in nature. So, considering the personal comfort zone is the only reason which I had kept it in the zone.
So, will you get all personal comfort zone in Indian Foreign Service?
no, sir.
But I believe that I'm open for those challenges at this point of time and overcome in the process of training as well as in the due progression of time. I believe I can overcome that, sir.
Do you know India is a non-permanent member at UN? Yes.
So India, since the inception of United Nations, has been a non-permanent member of United Nations Security Council.
Non-permanent member, United Security Council. So how many years?
So since
1945, October 24th. So that would be around more than 72 years, sir.
What is the animal? Which animal is used in our logo for our UN non-permanent membership at present?
So I must admit that I'm not aware of it, sir.
Have you listened Mann Ki Baat?
Not so recently, sir, but I have listened one or two, sir.
Tell me the success story about any health institution in Kerala which we could project abroad.
Okay, sir. So I must admit that I'm not sure of the specific health institution that was referred to by the Honorable Prime Minister. However, if you may allow, I can also suggest another example which I have in my mind to project abroad, if I may. Yes. All right. So the health systems in the Chavakad district of Thrissur in Kerala was one of the best examples that could be projected in the worldwide stage. However, because the community health center was in a depleting or in a deteriorating situation for a very, very long time. However, with the active involvement of civil society and with the active involvement of government entities, with the philanthropic efforts from various foundations, helped to overcome the log jams or the bottlenecks that the community health center was facing. And now it is higher in standards than many other private diagnostic centers or the private health centers in the Chavakar district. So I believe this is one of the examples where we can cite the active effort of civil society, local governance systems to overcome any challenges that one may face in a district.
What about the Ayurvedic institution in Kerala? Do you know? Very well known Ayurvedic institution in Kerala.
So I believe one of the most famous institutions in Kerala is a Kottakkal Aryavaidya which is situated in the district of Malappuram in Kerala, which is an Ayurvedic institution that has more than 70, 80 years of existence.
What is today's date?
Today's date is the 2nd of April, 2022.
So you have experience in Qatar. What is the India-Qatar bilateral trade?
So I'm not aware of the exact figure of the bilateral trade. However, I believe it is more than $10 billion, sir. Yes, sir.
What is the Indian diaspora in Qatar?
So it's about 3 million population that is located in 3 million expatriate population from India that is there in Qatar.
Main challenges in Qatar.
So the main challenges that India faces in Qatar is with specific references to the migrant issues that our expatriate population faces over there, because many of our migrant population goes through situations of human rights abuses, non-payment of wages, and living under very cramped situation where they do not have basic access to sanitation or healthcare facilities, which is one of the reasons. Secondly, Qatar's position towards the outside world, especially with their relationship with the Israel and the other West Asian countries, is also posing a challenge to balance both these relationships. So these are some of the challenges that India faces in Qatar, sir.
What is the ECR and non-ECR passport?
Yes, sir. So ECR passport is where an immigration check is required for certain set of migrants before leaving the country, and they require a specific set of procedures to that they have to go through. However, a non-ECR passport is where the ministry itself have certified that they need not go through the extra customs procedure which is required for the ECR passengers.
The last question: what is the track 1.5 diplomacy?
So track 1.5 diplomacy involves not only government entities, we are also involving private entities like think tanks, NGOs, as well as famous experts. So it is more of a mixed approach where we are not only focusing about a state focus, however, we are also utilizing other channels of diplomacy in terms of, we could say, that semi-back channel diplomacy to achieve our objectives.
Do you know the Operation Ganga? Yes. Which countries were involved in Operation Ganga?
So Operation Ganga involves India, Poland, Belarus, and Slovakia is what I think.
One more message.
Shree Kumar, just a couple of questions before we wind this thing up. If suppose you are at the helm of Indian foreign policy, you will base the Indian foreign policy on which political philosophy? Choose one.
So I believe it is difficult to base a foreign policy on one political philosophy. However, if I have to base it on one political philosophy, it would be the philosophy of humanism, where you are placing humanity at the center, and that is the only thing which that should come into all of our mind, and the philosophy that combines humanism with national interest.
Okay. Last question. Shree Kumar, try to highlight something in which you once believed, but now you no longer believe in that thing.
So I believe earlier in my life, I used to believe in a lot of superstitions. However, the realities in my life and the experiences I had gone through makes me understand that there is no point in believing in the uncontrollables. We have only believe about controlling the controllables, face the reality with a smile on your chin, and just carry on with your life.
Thank you, Shree Kumar. It was lovely interacting with you. We will reconnect with you in some time for your feedback. Stay connected. Let me highlight the good things first. You introduced yourself very well. Some of your answers were brilliant. Particularly one which I liked was the answer which you gave in and around your previous job? And how did you handle things there? Your answer around Hindi was very good. Kodiko, am I pronouncing it correctly? Almost. So that was also very good. Your answers around political science were decent and impressive. But this is a critical analysis. And hence, Shree Kumar, let us talk on those areas, dear, where there is enough room for improvement. Because the ultimate aim of having this exercise is to assist you so that you can make it into the final list. First, when you enter the room, never ever say, "May I sit?" This shows that you cannot wait for orders. This is not a test of your knowledge, this is a test of your personality, right? How much is your alertness? How much is your patience? How balanced are you in your thought process? How well you can communicate? What is your intellectual depth? Do you have balance of opinions? This is what is being tested here and not anything else. So never do that. In the real interview, you will not be allowed to wear the watch. So get rid of it so that you practice the way in which you will be going into. You are very well dressed. Do you intend to wear a jacket?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And what is the color? Color matching the pant?
Yes. No, maybe.
Okay. Is this more or less the combination that you will be going forward with? It's a decent combination. Then the eye contact was good for most of the times, but at some times what happened was in few questions, you neglected the people who were sitting at the extremities. So never do that. When somebody asks you the question, look into that person's eye and wait for the question to finish. Wait for a few seconds because there could be a supplementary question. And then once the question is done, slightly lower your gaze. Do not put your head down. That shows lack of confidence. Slightly lower your gaze. This gives an impression as if you're processing the question, organizing your thoughts, articulating your arguments, and now you are ready to present your answer. Right? And when you start answering, look up and start answering by looking at the person who has asked you the question. Primarily look into the eyes of that person. 70 to 80% you should dedicate your time to that person. In between, you should steal some soft glances to others, right? And when you look at others, always move your head. Do not just tilt your eyes, right? It gives a kind of escapist kind of tendency. So never do that. Excessive hand movements. After a point in time, I was feeling as if I'm attending a seminar where there is a speaker who's trying to impress me with some idea or some innovation. You're moving your hands too much. This is a formal interaction there, right? Never move your hands beyond the armrest. And also, if you want to make some small hand gestures, that is fine. But the excessive gestures, sometimes you did this, sometimes you did this, and then you did this also, in order to indicate few things. So it doesn't make a very good, you can say, observation, right? So try to work on that area. You use some informal words. And I do not blame that because the generation is such that they always talk in informal language. So use words like, you know. In one of the question, it was obedience versus inquisitiveness. You say, what you say. And you remember that, right? When sir asked you about dosa, your facial expression was like, dosa. This is what you made an expression. This is not an informal conversation, dear. So try to avoid such kind of expressions, right? Then in some of the answers, in most of the answers you thanked whenever any information was supplied to you. In one of the answers when it was asked to you where we have the Maritime Coordination Center and all, the answer was Colombo. When sir said Colombo, you did not say thank you or thank you for enlightening me. Okay, always. You said okay. Never do that, right? Always take the opportunity to express your humility. That will open an altogether new dimension of your personality. Right, Shree Kumar? But the area where you messed up completely was this zone thing. And you might have realized that, right? When some conversation is dragged around a topic, it means you're not doing very well in that topic, especially in the personality test. A good answer should be, sir, I have just exercised my preferences because UPSC gave me that opportunity. But I'm ready to serve throughout the territory of India. In any capacity, I am allowed to. That closes the argument. You used words like potential, aptitude. You were going against natural justice. How can a person be a judge in his own case? Do you get that? And your line of defense was, I have done my schooling for 13 years. That's a very short period of time. You were not even an adult. You get that? And then you said initial years of experience should be utilized in a place where I have more awareness about the place. Then comfort zone. You said my comfort zone, and then you have given IPS as sixth, right? And there you said, sir, I am little bulky. Well, it also shows that you do not intend to reduce your weight, right? So you are taking the things as they are. You're not making any effort to change. Do you understand that? A major expectation from a potential civil servant is he will come into the system and will cause a change, positive change in the society. But Shree Kumar is not willing to change himself. That's what the impression we derived. You get that, Shree Kumar? I hope you're taking these criticisms very positively, dear, because the ultimate aim is to see that whether you can be trained or not. Do you get that? If you work on these areas, definitely I feel you are a bright prospect. Your knowledge bank is very good. You have excellent communication. One of the finest that I have come across this season. So I feel that you're making it if you work on these areas, right? That's my feedback, Shree Kumar. Sir, you would like to add something? You can hold your questions by the fag end, I'll answer.
Let me just take 2 minutes.
Yes.
You made a very confident entry, but asking for permission to sit down was a big blunder. Hand position I felt was too mechanical. You keep sitting like this. In the beginning, you were sitting just like this for a very long time. And suddenly after that, you got into your own elements. And thereafter, you went beyond your elements also. Right? So I can divide your whole talk in 3 different setups. So, third part of it, you sat like this. That is not a good position to sit in, because here what happens is even a slight movement, when you get a little stressed, a little movement will show. Better to keep your arms locked or keep them in this manner. When you keep them in this manner, make sure that your nails are properly cut, right? Because that attracts attention unnecessarily. And a couple of places you answered, when asked a question, you started with sure, sir. Can I ask you a question? You said sure, sir. Not required there. Your tie is not, you have the lower flap which is more visible actually than the main tie because of the position that you put it in. Actually, you have tucked it inside your shirt, which is the right thing to do, but make sure it's not visible from the front. Right? Stand in front of a mirror and make sure that it's not visible. When asked about Kozhikode, yeah, he said that you said exactly. You were very happy about it and said exactly. Don't get over exuberant. And when something was told to you, once you said okay, I think twice you said okay, and in one instance you said thanks. Take the opportunity of thanking the panelists whenever you get the opportunity. It makes gives a much better impression about yourself. When you said once you asked for permission to think, in that period of thinking, your head was moving all around like this. At that time, you are thinking, you're not dancing. Right? So keep your head stable, lower your gaze a little bit, think and then answer. So your head should not be moving at that. Oh, okay, yeah, I get that. So, you're getting ideas in your head and you're exhibiting them to us. And then suddenly after that, you said, I can't think. So you see the dichotomy. Then excellent communication skills. Eye contact was quite good most period of the time, apart from what was answered or what was just informed to you. Date of birth, you need to know, right? When I said, it's the World UFO Day. Learn something about what this day is special about. Learn something about that particular subject also. Name, very well answered. He asked about today. Because on the day of the interview also, you may be asked, what is so special about today? Be aware about that day also. Then knowledge about F1 was good. Knowledge about cooking was okay. Comfort zone was a blunder when you said IFS. And I felt that was superstition that you want to get over, you've gotten over, was a good answer. Overall, let me tell you, the small things, if you keep them in mind, you can expect your marks to skyrocket. Right? You are a very good candidate. With these few inputs, if you get them over, you will go into the top notch. All the very best.
Shree Kumar, the positive points are already highlighted, so I'll directly jump to the points to improve. There was too much head movement at multiple places, like too much head movement. So it also shows some form of overconfidence on your part. Okay, your communication skills are very good, but you were at multiple places. I felt that you were overshowing it. Don't do that. Okay. At one place you say what you say, that you have already admitted it. And yes, at multiple answers you started like, I must admit, I must admit, I must admit. This shows that you are in the position of authority. Okay, be humble, little bit. There were long answers at multiple places. When I asked you regarding some three foreign policy impacts on a common man, there were long answers, and you stopped at two. Okay, you forgot that I asked you about some three impacts. Linkages between Taylor management, administration, you didn't know that, and as you have graduated in commerce, you have worked also, and you are planning to go in administration. So there has to be some good amount of knowledge regarding management and administration and linkage between them. That answer, what was the difference between management and administration, that also needs more refinement. It was too simplistic. Okay, and the biggest blunder was, as I lived in a foreign country, I am better suited for Indian foreign services. So work on that part. Otherwise, you have wonderful prospects this year.
See, when I asked about the trip of India,
Stepped outside of the room, I knew that I made a blunder there because I interpreted the question in an absolutely opposite manner. I know Sir had asked me about the non-permanent membership. I thought about since when India has been a non-member of United Nations Security Council. So
I asked.
It's because recently India was holding the position of non-permanent membership in United Nations Security Council.
Up to
2021.
21, 22, up to December 22, we are the member. Okay, and we have to talk in the see, we are dealing with the international relation as one of your subject, and you are opted. You have opted IF as the first choice. You must know about this thing. And see, another thing is that I asked about Operation India. It's a recent one, in the March 2021. Most familiar about all the aspects. It's very much highlighted. And I have asked simple question. Name the countries. If there is a list of 20 countries, it is expected that okay, you cannot recall all the names. 4-5 countries you can easily recall. Actually, your communication is very good. But some things, just like I asked about the importance of your cooking in the health, you only focus about the vegetarian aspect and you neglected the non-vegetarian food, citing the reason that the Eastern people mostly prefer this fish. But my objective was not why government of India has the policy in the national aid program. Sunday ho ya Monday root ka purpose is to use your cooking knowledge in the administrative aspect to improve the health of India. We are not discussing, in the just like friends. You are coming here to showcase your cooking knowledge, which can be utilized, okay, to promote the health among the people. Just like we are using junk food, it doesn't mean that it's a healthy food. You understand? So otherwise, everything is good, but you don't know about the significance of today's date. Is the World Autism Day. Okay, it's a blue color you wear. It's color. These things. You don't know. You have not heard about Sridharan Ayurveda institution in Kerala. See, the former Prime Minister of Kenya's daughter is treated very well in the Mann Ki Baat Prime Minister mentioned. She had an optic nerve atrophy and I said she was into during the treatment. So otherwise, please improve about this some of the main aspects. Okay, and the sir lightly mentioned that if you would like to avoid the hand movement, please block it. It would be very beneficial.
Shree Kumar, anything specific you would like to ask?
No, sir. I think all of your respective members have actually pointed out everything, those minute elements which I had wanted to look into. So yes, sir, that's all from my side.
Shree Kumar, you are very young. and your DAF is very strong. Your personality is very vibrant, and you look a sharp person. So that's why I think if you work on these areas, if you take this feedback in a positive spirit, definitely you are in. I have a strong hunch you're in, and you're in, and you're getting your preferred service. Okay. As far as this interview is concerned, the board has awarded you 175 to 180. In between that range, right? If you want to be more precise, 177.5. But if you work on these areas, definitely 20 mark improvement. 200 plus, and you are in the IFS. Thank you, Shree Kumar.
Thank you.